and welcome back to Nothing Specific, the podcast with no home. I am delighted to say that I am joined today by popular YouTuber and streamer of Football Manager, Matt from Second Yellow Card. How are you doing, Matt? Thank you for joining me.
I'm excellent, Jay. How are you, man?
I'm very good. I'm very good indeed. Again, thank you so much for joining me.
No
Big
problem.
fan of the channel, so I'm absolutely delighted to have you on. So first things first, what was your first experience with Football Manager, or was it Championship Manager at that time?
No, it wasn't. A lot of people always like joke when I say, "Oh, I'm relatively new to this," because I have compared to some people, I am relatively new to this. Like the first FM game I bought was FM 13, so it had been FM for a long time at that point, and I only bought that because it was really, really cheap on Steam, like a January summer sale. I'd never really liked Football Manager because I didn't like the fact that there wasn't like a proper match engine. I was always more of a FIFA kind of person. I used to play FIFA Manager as well because at least you got the 3D match engine. That's all I really cared about was fantasy graphics and stuff like that. And I was reading this book called Football Manager Ruined My Life by Ian McIntosh, and he was just narrating a save basically as part of this book, and it just made me go, oh, okay, maybe there's a bit more depth to this. And then I bought the game and I was like, oh, there's way too much depth to this, and then I barely even played it for the whole of FM13 basically.
Wow, that's incredible. Then, so you never got to experience the sort of just text-based version of it. Have you gone back and played it at all since you've started on this?
No, God, no. I don't think I could go. I can barely go back to FM19 now. Like, it's too many mod cons involved. I've become spoiled by the modernity.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I mean, even since FM13, it's took on a whole new level these days, to the point where now, it's being used in real life football by actual teams. So
Yeah.
the fact that it's gotten that far in just 10 years is incredible. So what's your process for then selecting teams that you choose for the saves?
It's a bit ethereal because I was trying to explain this to stream a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of it is just a case of I'll get like a concept for a save rather than a specific team. So I'll be like, right, I want to do this specific thing, and it doesn't matter what the team is to fit that yet. So whether it be building a nation, whether it be various other saves I've done, it's like a concept for a save that you can put multiple different teams into, which I think is helpful if people want to copy as well, because then they don't have to do the same team. They can kind of just pick their own thing that fits those criteria, and then it's just a case of finding a team that feels right, one that I go, yeah, okay, kind of like that one. They'll do. And it really is as simple as that. Sometimes it is just a case of I just like the team. I might like the kit. They might have a fun badge. They could just have a fun name or an interesting history. Something like that just makes me go, yeah, okay. I find that interesting because I know that if I'm not interested, then it's not going to make good content. And even when I am interested, let's be honest, it barely does.
Do you find it hard? So, like, if I start a save down in like level 12, for instance, I can't pick a team unless they've got a real badge, and obviously the few and far between down at that level. Are you like that with things like that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I barely managed that. Like, I think I managed at level 10, I think, a few years ago on FM, but it was a creator club, or not, not using the inbuilt creator club, but my own creator club using the editor. So obviously I'd made all the badges and stuff, and that was all fine. But yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, my badge pack that I use is pretty extensive, but once you go down to that sort of level, as you say, it's just like, hey, look, it's an orange triangle. I don't want to manage an orange triangle. This isn't a hazard zone, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got one I'm doing at the moment in level 12, which is based off one of Tom FM's experiments that he done, and the only team that I could find in my region in level 12 that had a badge was Formby, so I have to choose them. It was like the only one. Yeah, I had to.
Sometimes the best saves can come out of that though when you're sort of forced into a position. It's why I quite like the journeyman saves. When I do them, I have all these rules that I use on them, but then you're forced into managing clubs that you would never choose. Like I wouldn't choose to manage in the Albanian second division, but it's fun.
Yeah. No, I think Georgia was the one I ended up on my latest journeyman. That's a crazy.
Never done Georgia. Would like to.
So you mentioned building a nation. What are your favorite type of saves to play?
Building a nation, easy. It's just it's so. I like saves that give you an objective beyond just, hey, let's go win the Champions League, because that's fun and all, but I realized that after a while, with the way FM is, I've got enough thousands of hours into the game now to know that over a certain amount of time, with the right min-maxing and the right maximizing of this and that and the other, you can get a Champions League. Depending on where you start, obviously, yeah, will it take 10 years? Will it take 15 years? That really comes down to where you start. But with the way the game is, I wanted challenges that were a bit beyond that and gave me long-term save potential that gives you something to root for once you've won a Champions League. Because a lot of the time with any save like that, with me, it was always, all right, that's it, I'm done now. I've won the Champions League, that's it. I mean, maybe it would have been different if I'd was doing it offline. I wasn't making content on it because I've never won the Champions League outside of making content. I've never played a save long enough offline that actually won a Champions League, but that's probably because I wouldn't be able to stay interested in it long enough. But I feel like at that point, I'd just be like, I want to turn off now. I've lost that bite to go towards a new challenge. And the reason I like building a nation saves is because you have that long overarching goal that you can continue to accomplish even when you're winning things. And there's just so much fun building up other teams and watching them in Europe and having just this enormous country to root for. And it's really rewarding when it goes well.
Yeah, I mean, you get drawn into the actual team overall. Like I noticed, obviously, you're doing Build a Nation with Hungary at the minute, and also you had the NTK Budapest top on one of your latest videos. But
Yeah.
you do it, you get into the teams like that. I mean, I think I done a Serie C save one year with Monopoly, and obviously everyone took the piss out of that name, of course.
Yeah.
But you get really engrossed in them, and I find myself sort of following them outside of Football Manager and things like that as well. Now, just not to any extent, but just like looking out for the results and things like that, and it really sort of get engrossed, don't you? That's why.
No, exactly. I still get score reminders for teams I've done saves with 3 or 4 years ago, just because I'm curious about them. You know, you just get an affinity for them.
Yeah, you do, absolutely. So you mentioned there you haven't really had a save where you've managed to stay on it long term away from streaming. Have you got any sort of having a little go with at the minute while you're not streaming?
Most of the time, no. This year, weirdly, yes, but that's a bit of an exception because most of the time I get more than enough of the game from YouTube and streaming I get way more than I want a lot of the time, and so I don't ever want to play it purely for fun, I suppose. But this year, actually, like the last couple of years, the last time I did a save that wasn't content was probably I had a Netzella Ettelbruck save in Luxembourg back in like FM 17. And now this year, I just about a few weeks ago started a Chapecoense save in the Brazilian second division because I just wanted to try something a bit different. And I'd never managed in Brazil. I'd heard there was lots of matches, and there is a lot of matches, but it gives you a chance to test out tactics and stuff. I just have a bit of fun with the game, and I was actually enjoying it. It's I haven't played it for a couple of weeks, but it's actually fun.
Yeah. Do you ever? You just said there it's good for trying out tactics and things like that. Do you ever do that just to try out the league before using it for content?
Usually not, particularly not in the last couple of years, just because my saves have been started like right at the very start of the game. So there hasn't been a lot of space to do stuff like that other than just, on the beta, we normally just dick about with a random team for a little bit. I never normally do like much long-term tests. I sometimes like load up a save that I'm going to do and maybe do some simulation tests just to sort of see how things progress, see some time scales, just have a little look at where the league is, but just to make sure everything works more than anything else, because we've run into issues with that in the past. But that's about as far as it goes, because that takes time to do, and most of the time I just want to get stuck in, and you're generally on a deadline, because once the game's out, people want to see content.
Yeah, of course. So I noticed when you first started, you were only putting videos out updating the current save that you were doing. So I went on like your first one was the rebuilding Fulham. I will be coming back to that, by the way. But I've noticed more recently you've begun to start putting out some more experiment-based videos. Was that like the sort of natural progression for you and the channel, do you think?
I think it had to be. If I hadn't started doing that this year, the channel would have died. Quite simply. The viewership was not there for Let's Play content for a channel of my size. Really now, because the attention span required for a long Let's Play save to actually watch one consistently is incredible, because you're asking someone to give up 20, 30 minutes of their life to watch you, sometimes every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, and that's a lot. And if you miss a couple of episodes, you just dropped out. And I found that was really just, it wasn't allowing any growth, because you get some subs from the first episodes, but then after that it's like, who's finding episode 17 of a series and going, yeah, this is where I want to hop in? It's just, there was nothing there. So it was a case of either I change my content to what I want to make, which is now what I am doing, or I carry on doing what I'm doing and the channel will most likely die, and with it my career. So it's like, it was a necessary, not even a necessary evil. It was a time to make the change. And I felt that the start of this game cycle was the time to do it, basically a fresh start, essentially.
Yeah. Do you find people are more interested in the Let's Play saves more on Twitch?
Yeah, definitely, because it's a lot more relaxed. You can sort of take it at your own pace. I mean, I am usually quite fast paced with it because I want to get through Building a Nation series. I want to get through the seasons as fast as possible to give us the best chance. But people are more engaged with it because it's something you can follow as a group. And I feel like people can get way more invested in it on a live stream than they can in videos, because they get to see everything. There's not like highlights and stuff I'm clipping out of it. It's what they can see as much as they want to see. All the VODs go onto the second channel, so they could watch every second of the streams if they really wanted to. And I know, crazily, hundreds of people do, and that's mad to me, but that's awesome at the same time because it keeps people involved. And obviously I do the yearly season by season recaps as well on the main channel to keep people invested in it like that too, that maybe don't have the time to watch that kind of stuff. But it's just way easier to follow a save, and it keeps me invested in it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any features you'd like to see added in FM24?
I mean, a lot of features I'd like, but also just like fixing the things that currently exist in the game would be great. So having the option to extend all loans potentially, like why is that not a thing? Why is there not a button I can push that just extends the loans I currently have? No, yeah. I have to click 160 times to extend all of the. Obviously, not everyone has 160 players out loan. I get that. That's fine. But some of us might have like 20. Why can't I just hit extend all loans? Just little stuff like that, and just well, the way the AI works and the transfer AI, and they make the weird decisions. It's just, I would love to see some time and effort, like real time and effort, put into that side of the game. And I know that they can't market that as a particularly big feature to bring in new players, but like, just please do something for the players that have already been buying the game. Maybe like that'd be really cool. As for things I'd like to see that are added, I would just like to see like what I always refer to as flavor events. But what I mean by that is events that can happen in the game that add to the stories. Now, obviously, I realize this can only affect things like regens. As for example, you know, how regens can only have certain personalities that real players can't because of like licensing and potential lawsuits and whatnot. Totally understand that, but then just have it so I want my player to miss a game because his wife's giving birth or something. I want them to have more personalities, and I think it would really encourage people to play long-term saves rather than just dipping in and out for 2 seasons with Manchester City. And I want the game to be not targeted. I want it to at least try to cater to the people that want those long-term saves, because I feel like that's what the game was always supposed to be about. But I just worry that it's moving in the direction of like, hey, come play 1 season here, come play 1 season there with these massive teams, and well, let's ignore everything else. And I don't like that. And obviously that's just my opinion, of course, but I would just love stuff like that to be put in. Have it a system where it's like an injury. So it's like an event that's like an injury, but it has different mechanics to go with it. It can either have positive or negative effects on the players. So their new child the following week, they could have morale boosts as a result of the fact that they've got a new baby. They could be very tired because of it. Just little things like that would be just really nice to sort of make more characters and personalities to the players that exist. And I just think that'd be so sick.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like you've dipped a toe in the water ever so slightly with the, if you've had a club long enough, you might get a son come through the academy, or you can get the odd regen coming out as gay. Tiny things like bits. That. You've done the absolute bare minimum with it, and
take that and then
so much
expand on it.
Yeah,
there's so much you could do. Make it into like a proper mechanic that can be checked in the editor and actually added to. It'd just be so awesome to see people. And obviously, but the thing is, they could say, "Oh well, we can't do this because of licensing on that." It's like, but you could do the same thing with injuries. I could make an injury that is my player has gone on maternity leave, or not maternity leave. Well, I suppose with women's football, actually, they'll have to do that. That'll have to be a feature of the game, presumably. But I don't know. It's like it's so close, and maybe the dev time is just not being invested in that because we've got squad planner and dynamic manager timelines instead.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if you come across this yourself. Jack from Work to Space put a tweet out yesterday with something he wanted to be added as a feature, and that was if you stay at a club for 10 years or more, to give you a say in hiring your success. So what did you think of that little idea?
Yeah, I'd love to see stuff like that, because why not? Why not is always my answer to things like that. Is I think it would improve the game slightly, give you a little bit more control over your legacy. Because how many times have you done really well at a club, left, they appoint an absolutely god-awful manager and sell your entire squad in the first summer window, and then they come 5th the following year, and you're like, in what world would that happen? Like, I just want to be able to appoint David Moyes after me. That's all. Just work for Sir Alex. I want to do it now. That's all.
No, I know exactly what you feel. I had one where I was just bouncing around a load of different clubs, staying at them for 4 or 5 years, and I got Wigan promoted, won the Premier League with them, and then left, and they never won it again.
No, they never do they?
No. So I'd love that. One thing I've always wanted to see implemented, maybe if it was like a secondary game mode, sort of like draft in a way, where you get to become an actual chairman rather than a manager. Yeah. Now, I know people have done saves similar where they put their assistant manager in charge and go on holiday for the season and work it like that. I've seen you've done a few videos with again, Tom from Tom FM, where you played the role of agents.
Yeah.
Would you like to see a sort of separate game mode put in there like that, where people can do like a couple of seasons or something?
I'd love that kind of flexibility. I always want things that add, because I don't think it's that difficult to separate, but
Mm.
it'll never happen because it's, if you were to bring this to anyone that matters, I suppose they would say it's football manager, not agent manager, not chairman manager, not club physio assistant, lubricant specialist manager. It's, and as a result, that you'll never see any progress there. So it's up to us as content creators and players to find ways around the game and make the game be played in ways that it's not supposed to be. And one of my favorite things about FM is making it play in ways it's not supposed to. I got a lot of enjoyment out of that.
Yeah, I mean the physio, I was going to say the agent videos were really good. It was something I've never really even thought about doing, and I suppose that's why you've got the over 40,000 subscribers on YouTube. Who come up with that idea? Was that yourself?
That was me. I mean, this is the weirdest thing. I was having what I like to refer to as F the World Day, which is occasionally I give myself every couple of months. If it's just like, oh God, my mental health's in the drain, I'm like, right, you get to stay in bed today and do whatever the hell you like. You don't have to work. It's fine. You get a couple of. It's nice being able to do that, obviously. But while I was doing that, I was reading a book called Red Rising, which is like a sci-fi fantasy novel. And there was a segment in the book about this guy rebuilding his career after like falling out with someone. And for some reason I went, oh, it'd be cool if you could do that in FM with players. And then I just started going from there. And that's how it came about. And then it sort of worked out. People quite liked it.
Yeah, as I say, it was very interesting. And I think you're not just going in and choosing sort of, you're not going in and choosing a Haaland or an Mbappe because it's unrealistic. I like that you're choosing, players who need a move or have stagnated a little bit. Like I think you've done one with Fabio Carvalho.
I wanted to pick players that the game had thrown at me rather than picking, because I'd always get comments on them being like, hey, you should do Dele Alli or Donny van de Beek. But the problem is the game doesn't let you because the players are older for a start, but also when you start a save, the player's happy because everyone's happy at the start of a save. So it takes a couple of seasons for the discontentment to grow. And by then, not to mention the fact that they've obviously nerfed crap all of Dele Alli's like potential anyway, so it wouldn't make he doesn't have any potential to fulfill anymore. Yeah. The only way I could really go around that would be maybe go back to an older FM, look at his potential, reallocate his potential back up again, and maybe do it that way. But that for me was just not that interesting. I mean, maybe I'll get to that point when I run out of ideas, because I always want to do a twist on each one. I don't want it to be the same thing each time. There has to be something new, whether it's the regen version or the one collaborative version with Tom, or the one against Twitch chat, or some of the ones I've got planned for I try to do one a month. So some of the ones I've got coming up.
Yeah. And I'll give it very interesting. I really enjoyed them. So I mentioned I'd be coming back to this. I did go back to your very first video 8 years ago, FM14, rebuilding Fulham. Did you expect to still be doing this 8 years later, to have over 40,000 subscribers, over 11 million views on your videos?
God, no. I mean, it was like literally the only reason I started making the content was because it was the only game I could run on the laptop I'd commandeered off my mum. That was it. It was the only thing that would run. It didn't have a graphics card. It was all, I think it wasn't a good graphics card. And it was all I could record. And I was like, you know what? I already had the YouTube channel there from something else I was doing. And I already had all the URLs and everything. So I was like, oh, it's just the only game I can play. I like football. I like commentating on stuff. I'd be doing that anyway if I was playing the game, because I'm a loser. And why not just make some videos on it? Because I've watched a couple of Jack's videos back then, and I don't think anyone else that's still doing it now was doing it then. I think this was before even Ben started, probably back in like early 2014. Maybe he was, I'm not sure. But I think the only person I'd really watched was Jack at that point, and I thought, I'll give it a go. And it just so happened that I think back then the barrier to entry was very low, as you can tell from the fact that people watched that Fulham video and thought, yes, this is a person I'd like to give my time to. Like, how was that? Imagine if someone put that out nowadays. It just wouldn't work. But back then there was just a much lower barrier to entry, and I just lucked out, I think, and people seem to latch onto it, and the things just snowballed from there, really.
Yeah, no, it must have been a wild ride for you. I mean, you look at obviously Tom's just hit 100,000 subscribers. You've got Jack, you've got Ben, both over 100,000 subscribers themselves. Does that fill you with confidence that it can be done?
Yeah, absolutely. I was saying this the other day on stream that I think by the end of next game cycle, so like the end of FM24, I reckon there's going to be double-digit FM content creators with over 100K. Probably, because I mean we're halfway there already when you think about it, with Jack and Ben and Z and Kev and Tom, and there's probably more people I'm forgetting. And I don't really count like the big FM fan pages, that's, to me, they're not individual people. It's not really the same thing, but you can count them too if you want, honestly. Whereas I think it's barreling towards that now, with more and more people getting towards the 100K point. I mean, obviously, I'm still working my way towards 50, but that's fine. I've had the best year on YouTube I've ever had. I'm enjoying it so far. My targets are where they are. You know, if I can hit 100K by the end of next cycle, I'd be very happy. I would like to be one of those people. But I think there's RDF and Clates and Luke and Crew. There's so many other people that I think are going to get there as well. And that's bloody fantastic. If you'd have said to me 5 years ago that one person could have 100K subs on YouTube doing FM, I'd have been like, maybe one, but
yeah,
not 10, not even more than that. And I think it's just got the potential to grow and grow and grow. And that's awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's great for me to see. I was one of the people who started on the likes of Championship Manager. I think the first one I played was in like 1997. I was 6. Yeah, I was only 6 myself, and the first thing I wanted to do was buy Michael Owen because I was a kid and I didn't know any better.
I loved Michael Owen. My mum made me she made me a Michael Owen shirt.
Wow, that's dedication.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, to see how big it is now, and I think it helps that you see, you know, all these images of actual footballers playing it now. You have, you know, Antoine Griezmann's a big fan of it. Will Still, obviously the Stade de Reims manager, you know, he's obviously had his story, although he's kind of debunked it a little bit, which I think was a dagger in the heart of most football manager players. But no, it's mentioned on a sort of mainstream level now. I think Sky Sports News used part of it for their transfer centre a few years ago. It's like,
they had like attributes, didn't they, and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, the game has gone to heights I don't think anybody ever expected, and that's with the help of the likes of yourself and Jack and Ben and, you know, Zealand and all these other great content creators. So long may it continue. It's only going to make the game, you know, better. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do with it going forward. As you mentioned there, you are now not far away from 50,000 subs on YouTube. Have you got anything special planned for when you hit that landmark?
Aim for 51. My plan for the start of the year, which was really ambitious because I had never gained that kind of sub growth in a year, was see if I can hit 50 in a year, which I think I was at like 32 maybe at the time. And I was gaining like maybe 2,000 or 3,000 subs a year. So to expect suddenly an 18,000 sub growth in a year, it was like, okay, cool, that's great and all. How are you going to get there? But the changes to the content have enabled me to do that. I think we're up nearly 10K this year. In fact, I suppose if we're at like 42, then it must be about 10K. So if it carries on like this, we might get bloody close. And even if you don't close, if you aim for the stars and you miss, you might land on the moon, and that's pretty cool. Not many people have been to the moon. So I figured that was the plan. I mean, the aim was always 50K this year, 100K next year. And if I can do that, then I'll be bloody happy. If I get kind of close to it, that's fine too, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, there's no time limit, I suppose, to it, is there? No. If you keep putting out the great content, people are going to want to carry on seeing it. Are you full-time football manager now, or? Yeah,
I have been since the start of COVID. I mean, I think COVID's had a lot to do with the game's growth as well, just because with everyone being locked in their houses for God knows how long, people run out of things to do. So you're either playing Football Manager if you like football, or you're watching Football Manager and playing Football Manager if you like football. And I think that's really helped everyone sort of build this synergistic relationship between players and content creators. It certainly helped. Everyone was streaming. I mean, that's when I started doing it, and everyone was making more and more content. And I think a lot of people probably started during COVID that have progressed massively since then. And, you know, I just got on the tail as well, you know?
Yeah. I mean, since I've started watching content creators on Twitch more than YouTube, I've picked up so much more about the game. I was never really sort of doing the tactical side of things myself, and I've started just getting so much more into it. And you pick up things from different people, different tactics. You see, like Zealand is a bit mad with some of his tactics that he uses, and you know, you just pick up things. So it's great, as I say. I hope it continues, and hopefully, you know, fingers crossed, you do hit 50K before the end of the year. It'd be a big achievement, and sure, you know, it's just continue to grow from there.
I hope so.
Yeah, no, it will do. I'm sure of it. As I say, you're all very good at what you do. You just make it engaging. You just make it entertaining. And even, you know, your Twitch streams, you say you're a bit more laid back on there, but it's still engaging. You're having it's that conversation you have with your viewers, which is a big help there.
That's all I care about with the streams. It's like it's laid back, but not in a traditional sense of laid back. It's not like I'm being low energy and just sort of vibing with the game. It's laid back in the sense that it's a relaxed environment. I'm probably more energetic there than I am at any other point. It's just because I just really love doing it. I love talking to chat. I love the inside jokes and the little community and that sort of stuff. It's the best thing about streaming is building that little tiny community of people that just like to come and hang out with, doesn't have to be me, just with each other and chat and have a nice time. That's all I really wanted at the end of the day. And not one of the things I was worried about when I started streaming is that I just thought that a live chat environment could be particularly toxic potentially. But FM is a game that skews quite a lot older than most other video games. And as a result, there's a sort of inbuilt level of maturity, not in so much of the styles of humor, that's still extremely lowbrow and immature, more just in the way that people handle themselves as human beings, I suppose.
Yeah, no, there's definitely no sort of toxic nature with Football Manager as opposed to, yeah, well, certainly FIFA.
Yeah.
That's horrendous. Like watching streamers on that, which I do because they're just a bit off the rails, they're a bit mad. I think you've got to be a FIFA streamer. But no, there's not that toxic nature with Football Manager, and it's great to just put Twitch on, watch some Football Manager stream while you're playing your own game at the same time. It's great. I do hope you continue to grow. But that was everything I had for you, Matt. I want to thank you again for being a guest and coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. You taking the time.
That's all right. It was great. It's great to do. It was lovely to meet you.
You too. Thank you again, once again. And yeah, until next time.